buy any. I didn't bought anything. Unpleasant situation.
Definitely, yeah. And the best case scenario, you lose some time, some money. But worst case scenario, you lose lots of time and you lose like your health over it. What? Okay, I'm not gonna.
Where is finish? I don't know. We're talking like 1 hour.
We are talking 1 hour, but we're on the last point. And the most important one, dear, this is the top 20, the number one biggest scam in the world that people, even Ukrainians, there's millions of Ukrainians have the scam.
Yeah, but in this camera you're like, I don't know. Yeah, and when you film, look at one camera, or there or there. Okay. Maybe I can.
Hey guys, welcome to About Ukraine. Maybe we should stop.
No.
Hey guys, welcome to About Ukraine. Welcome to our channel. And in this video, we're gonna continue to drop some truth bombs and lots of wisdom here with Irichka about Ukraine.
Do maybe if you say hello guys, la la la, and I have to say too something.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of About Ukraine.
Hello.
Hey, and I'm with Irichka here. Yeah, and in this video, we're gonna share 20 ways many Ukrainian foreigners, and you know what? Ukrainians in general, they get screwed over sometimes, they get like shafted, they get scammed, they lose their money, and it's unfortunately, it's a common thing here in Ukraine, right?
Of course, because I think foreigners trust so much to Ukrainian people, but I think they shouldn't do that.
So, without further ado, let's get to our list. And this list is going to be structured in a way where, so it's going to be like a top 20 list. The first things that we're going to talk about are going to be not very consequential, maybe they're not very big, not important. And then we're going to go down the list of more important things, I suppose, that you got to keep an eye on. And that is really the number one thing, is that you have to understand that there's no consumer protection here in Ukraine. And if you want to spend some money, you have to kind of be sure that you're paying the right, I don't know, department, you're paying the right person, you're paying the right everything, because chances are you're not going to get your money back unless you're of course paying with your Western credit card. You can probably dispute your charges. So the rule of thumb is always pay after your service that you get. Always make sure you have a contract of some sort. Always read the fine print, understand what you're doing, right? That's the number one thing you should worry about.
Yes, because it's difficult to you can do that, but it's very difficult. So, and we have consumer protection, but if you do the right way, the right things that they tell you, then you will, if you paid in some wrong department or something else.
But it's usually a convoluted process, and you have to be prepared for a long, hard road ahead of you. So that's probably the number one thing. The number two thing is also, it has to do with trust. And you should not trust people at their word. And that includes the government, police maybe as well, some kind of authority figure. You should not trust them. I mean, a lot of people in the West, they're used to trusting whatever the police says, whatever some kind of paralegal says. In Ukraine, we have notarius, so the notary, right? And they're not bound legally by anything, right? That's the reality. You cannot trust that it's true unless you get a lawyer involved, right? That's what I find.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to get into more interesting things. And the next 5 things we're going to talk about has to do more with crime, maybe petty crime. But the good thing is that Ukraine doesn't have a lot of violent crime, but petty crime you have to be aware of. There was an article about Bike Now, which is this bike sharing service,
Mm-hmm.
People ride these bikes.
Yes.
And they, last week, they said that they're not going to serve Troyeshin area. They will not have any stands to rent bikes from because...
What's happened?
Because of theft. They lost a dozen bikes. I think it just goes to show that bike theft is important. So if you do come to Ukraine and you want to ride a bike, and you have a little bike, don't use wire locks, because they can be cut, parked in a visible area that, nobody will take your bike away from you.
You think it's territory of Tryeshina because guys steal all the time these bikes or what?
Yeah, and I think it's not just Tryeshina, it's other areas. They don't have a lot of foot traffic, and Tryeshina is just one of those areas. The second thing that you have to also keep in mind is that you have to pay attention to your personal belongings. The other side of the coin, when you're in a populated environment like the vokzal, the train station, the underground crossing, maybe in a very busy festival, and you have something happen to you.
Of course, yes.
With,
it's a very dangerous territory, vokzal, because it has a lot of not rich people, like bombs, and everywhere you have to be careful everywhere, and to pay attention for everybody and everyone, because somebody can steal your, for example, bag or something. I know that it's happened with my colleague, because this bag like me she had, and she was hanging it like this, and she told me that somebody stole it, like somebody. Yes, she kept this bag like, for example, like this on her shoulder, and she told me that somebody grabbed it, yes, like grabbed it and went away, and she was shocked, and she can't do anything with it, so you have to be very careful with these bags, with these bags, little bags, with all your money that you have, because somebody can steal it, especially in the territory of vokzal.
I don't want to be racist, I don't want to kind of put down certain nationalities, but we do have these gypsies people here, yes, and sometimes they run in groups. One guy will run away with your stuff, and the other one will distract you, and it happens in many different scenarios and many different situations. It can happen. The next thing is. Again, we're dealing with theft. It could be a problem if you have a car and you park in a secluded spot. You have to be attentive, right? Because again, this happened to some guy here in Ukraine, where he parked far away somewhere, and in a new area where he went, and somebody broke his window, and because he had stuff in plain sight. Like if you have like a big box, like of tools. You have a box of something.
You have not to leave your bags, for example, forward in your car. When you sit, for example.
The fourth thing is, it happens in Kiev very often, especially downtown in Kiev. I'm sure in many other tourist areas. That is bomb/panhandlers, and it's a thing that you have to keep in mind. Sometimes they're like, I need a little bit for my child, I need a little bit of money for this, I need a little bit of money for that. And then the thing is, when you give them something, like you give them 20 hryvnias, like $1, you give them, that's when they get really aggressive, and they're not going to leave you alone. They get really aggressive and they want more money from you.
It's happened with you?
Yeah, look, it happened with us. Remember when we were sitting at the Mimosa?
Yes, I know. Especially you have to be ready when you go in some restaurant. It's like some good restaurant, yes, and it's outside when you sit outside. Unpleasant situation.
Now we're gonna get into the fun part, the dating part, right? With guys and girls and guys, and maybe guys and guys, I don't know. I think it's men that make these mistakes, right? Everybody comes to Ukraine, right? And let's say they want to go out and date somebody, and they don't know the language, right? That's bad if you don't know the language. You have to hire a translator, right? And let's say this woman or this guy that you really like, they have a translator, it's like, I have a translator, right? I think that should be like a really big red flag. It's a bad sign. That's a sign that you're getting scammed by that person, right?
But I don't know, and it's interesting for me. I'm curious, how can this couple, for example, build some relationships if they use translator?
And they hope that everything will work out. These are probably the most gullible type of foreigners that come here that do that. That's what I think. I mean, it's certainly not the way to go. The second scam is actually pretty big, and there was a place that got nabbed for doing this. Basically, it's a restaurant scam. Or you meet a girl, I want to take you to a restaurant that I know that is cool, and you're like, okay, why not? But what can happen is that that person that is inviting you, or they may have like a bunch of like agreement with these thugs, right, that may jack up the price for your bill, and then you come in and you obviously see that it's been like jacked up, right? If you don't pay for it, these people beat you up, or they threaten you. You know, you get into trouble. And like I said, this place in Kiev, it got shut down because of this. Like hookah and tea, it was called. There were like 150 foreigners that they ended up screwing over, and they showed pictures of these receipts, and it was like 6,000 hryvnia receipts for 6,000 hryvnias for like a little bit of food. So yeah. Be careful of the restaurant scam.
It's happened with foreigners all the time?
Yeah, foreigners. Another thing that girls like to do to guys, girls like to say, you know, socially acceptable for a guy to buy girls like perfume and on a first date and like...
On the first date?
Yeah.
Maybe it's some oligarchs or somebody?
Yeah.
Do you understand? For somebody it's normal, for somebody it's not normal. You can't say that or normal it's or no. For example, for one guy it can be normal, for another guy it's not normal on the first date to give somebody something, you know. So if for example he has a lot of money and he can allow to buy a girl like a gift on the first date, of course, maybe it's normal.
I agree. It's 100% if a guy is okay. But the thing, let's say a guy is unsure about Ukraine. He doesn't know anything about Ukraine, and he comes from like a middle class family somewhere in like Texas, I don't know. And he comes to Ukraine, and like 2 girls in a row say that to him, and he starts to believe it. You know, he will think that's how it is.
If he has no own opinions, then of course he will believe it. But
of course, yes. That a girl can say that she needs like money like for rent, or she needs like some money for transportation. And this is actually the case with guys that meet girls online, like from America. They meet girls online in Ukraine, and then they end up sending them money, you know. That's one thing you gotta do. You gotta understand that, you know, you can't send girls money, you know.
Girls that he don't know?
Yeah, like the guy lives in like America, the girl lives in Ukraine, and they talk online only, right? They haven't met each other in person.
It happens not only in Ukraine, it's like all over the world.
It's a global thing, right?
Yes, I think it's a global thing, because the one situation, if for example guy knows girl and of course he can decide, but another situation he doesn't know her and he asks him, of course it's like some scam.
Right. I agree with that. However, again, you know how in our previous video we said that Ukrainian like average salary is like 17,000 hryvnias? Well, a guy will actually look at that and believe that and think it's true, and then he'll actually look at how much rent costs, and you know, rent for an apartment can be 15,000 hryvnias, and he sees that the girl makes 17,000 hryvnias, and he's gonna be like, oh no, I gotta support this girl, or she's gonna like starve to death. But what I'm trying to get across is that you know, the girl survived like before this guy, right, and she'll probably survive after him. It's not like it's something that has to be done if the guy doesn't want to do it, right? The next category of scams we're going to talk about is cars. The first point is probably common sense, but something that you have to know if you're buying a car in Ukraine, especially a used car, right? You have to understand that you should never bring cash, like when you first go out to see the car, right? You don't know who these people are. Like the best thing that can happen to you is that your money will be taken from you. The worst thing is that you can get like beat up. Who knows what else can happen? You can get robbed. Yeah, so I think you should come with a friend, with a knowledgeable friend. You should come with a mechanic, somebody who can look at the car with you, and you should lift the car up and, you know, get the guy to look around and underneath it and whatever. I don't think there's a lot of consumer protection, especially with cars. So you can never be sure if the car's mileage is accurate, because again, you can't trust anything that the seller is going to tell you, I think, for the most part. So you have to kind of do due diligence and do all of that yourself. The second scam that could happen when you're buying a car is that the DMV, or here it's called the MREO refusal scam. It's essentially, what it means is that when you buy a car, you have to take it to a DMV, in Ukraine it's called the MREO, where the car is being deregistered. It's being checked for like liens, it's being checked for safety, it's being checked for fines that were levied on the car. And if everything is okay, the car will be deregistered, and you can register it on your name once it passes the safety certificate and all that kind of stuff. You understand, right? So what the guy can do is within his rights, the seller's right, to not come with you to this DMV to get this car deregistered, and he can do it with like a power of attorney or something like that. Yeah, you have to get that in writing. If he does refuse to do that, for me it would be a huge red flag. I don't understand why anybody would not want to come with you to the DMV. But if he does refuse, you can always write up a contract where you specify that in the case the car doesn't pass safety, it doesn't get deregistered properly, if there's fines on the car, you get your money back plus expenses. I don't know. You probably don't have experience with that, right?
No.
No. In Ukraine, you have a lot of these cars with like Polish registration, like Czech, Polish, Latvian registration. And let's say you live in Ukraine and there's a nice car like in Germany somewhere, and you're like, shit, like I want that car. You have to really be careful about that. When you're calling a classified and the guy sells you, oh, this car is not here, I need a little bit of prepayment, I need a little bit of deposit, it's refundable, whatever, it's a deposit, you should just walk away. It can be tempting though, because a lot of cars abroad, you're thinking like, okay, a car in Germany is going to be way nicer than a car in Ukraine, and it could be a good price. But yeah, that's one scam that you should be aware of. It's not the car that you want to buy, because you can't see it, you can't touch it, it's very self-explanatory. The next point about buying a car is about buying a car on European plates, what I just mentioned. Okay, first of all, you're going to have to put that car on Ukrainian plates, right? It could be a guy who lives in Poland that is registered to, right? Or it could be a company in Poland that the car is registered to. And let's say there's like a fine on the car, there's a lien on the car. You're going to have to get Polish lawyers involved, and that's not going to be cheap. It's not like a Polish lawyer, it's not like a Ukrainian lawyer. And also, you have to worry about the customs clearance. In many cases, it can go up to a few $1,000s, right? So that you gotta worry about that as well. So the number 5 scam is when you sell a car. But this is like about for people like maybe girls, right? Or like guys that don't know much about what the kind of car they're selling. Dealer type guys that like to buy car cheap and sell it more expensive. And what they do is they have like a group of like maybe 5 people, and like let's say they all come to you and pretend that they're a buyer, and they're saying like, oh, you have like a problem with the front fender here, or the door here, you have a problem, it's like painted. No, the car is fine. You think it's fine, right? And then the second guy says the same thing. Oh, there's something wrong with your fender. And the third guy says, oh, there's something wrong with your fender. I'm gonna give you $2,000 less. I'm gonna give you $2,000 less. And then one guy comes in and you're like, okay, you have a problem with the fender, so I'm gonna give you $1,000 less. I hear that it happens because people in Ukraine, they want to save as much money as possible, especially these dealer guys. So I think it's important to know what kind of car you have.
I don't understand anything about cars and about selling
it,
stuff,
buying
of
it.
course.
Okay, well maybe you're gonna like
so.
the next one. It's about real estate. It's about houses and real estate. The first one is, and that is realtors. In Ukraine, realtors are not regulated. They're not licensed. They don't answer to anybody. They're not legally obliged to do anything to you, to a seller, to the buyer, or anything. They're just there to make their 5%. I don't know what the commission is. Usually it's 5% commission. And that is just like a biggest scam in the world. I don't know. They can do 3 things to you. You're a seller, right? And you're like, oh, okay, I need a realtor. So they can come to you and they can say, we're gonna give you a free appraisal, right? When they come in and they have their own appraiser, and let's say your apartment is worth $100,000, and the appraiser comes in and he's like, oh, it's worth $150,000. You're like, wow, I'm gonna get $150,000 for my apartment. But it's a scam because he values your apartment for way more than what it's worth, and then again he's like, sign this little contract with me, sign this little contract, and it could be 2 contracts. It could be an exclusivity contract where you're only allowed to sell with this guy for no matter what, and then they can like not even put in the price. Or it could be like a preferential treatment contract where you're supposed to do this for the realtor, and this is like your obligations to the realtor, and you read it and it looks fine. You're like, okay, they're gonna sell my apartment for $150,000 and it's worth $100,000, great. But you know what the realtor is gonna do? They can put it for sale for $200,000. And like you're waiting, and you're like, okay, my apartment's not selling. What the hell is it not selling, right? And buyers not interested, and you can't even go anywhere else and sell it yourself now because you signed a stupid contract. You know, for a realtor to force you to do this, you are allowed to do with your assets as you please. It's your asset. I don't know if you heard of these scams for sellers. If you're selling,
I think maybe you have to have a realtor from other people that will recommend you this realtor.
what does a realtor do? Because, like I said, not regulated, not licensed. They're paralegals. They're not clerks. They're not legal clerks. Their job is to share your apartment on their sites, maybe on certain networks that they have, and that's it. You pay more for the apartment or for the house than it's worth, and this realtor is like in the middle of the deal, like he's just trying to make money off you. I personally think that it's a scam, and you should get a real estate lawyer, not a notarius, not like some kind of like, you know, agent or whatever, an actual lawyer that has experience dealing real estate deals. And then you carry this lawyer with you, and you go to every single, you know, apartment, house. A lot of them are sold by realtors, but maybe there's a way to avoid them. I don't know. Right? You don't know how you can avoid them, or maybe why you wouldn't want to avoid them? Because I think you would have to avoid them as a buyer, because you know you're just giving money away to them. The third big scam is when the owner that's selling the house doesn't disclose that there's a propiska of a minor. Like usually when you buy a house, they get rid of the people that have been living there, and it's possible, and it's perfectly normal. But if it's a minor, if it's somebody under the age of 18, propiska is something that they're stuck with, and they have no say in it unless it's removed by court order, and it's really difficult and stuff. Propiska, again, is like a mailing address, right? It's something that every citizen has to be propisan. They have to be registered to a location.
So you have to be sure that nobody registered there.
Yes. And the second last one is rentals. Say you are a foreigner, you want to rent an apartment to this cool guy, whatever. You get the first and last month's rent, you do the background check, he checks out, and that guy can turn around and put your apartment for rent, and then he can get like 3, 4, 5 people to also agree to rent that apartment if they're not paying attention, these people. And that could be you know, it could be a foreigner that doesn't pay attention. He tells you that he's like the relative, the brother of the owner. He gets the first and last month rent from like 4 people, and then he disappears. And make sure that you're renting it from the person who is the landlord, right? Not anybody else. Or somebody you know had problems with the rental where they were renting from somebody who's not the owner of the apartment. But maybe they got lucky, right?
I think I know the situation with my friend, but they were lucky because landlord was okay. But for example, if you see announcement, and in this announcement you see the photos of this apartment, yes, on photo it's one apartment, and when you go there to look at this apartment, it's another apartment.
Yeah.
It's different, the way different that you saw before on the sites. So you have to be like not to waste your time, or look carefully, yes, on this announcements.
Yeah, on the ad.
And about description of this apartments, yes, and maybe to call the landlord that indicated in this announcement, and to listen to the voice of person, and then you will, for example,
not a maniac, because Irichka is a psychologist and a psychiatrist and a mind reader and everything in one. She knows what I'm thinking all the time. Thing that we're gonna talk about. What? Okay, I'm not gonna.
Where is finish? I don't know. We're talking like 1 hour.
We are talking 1 hour, but we're on the last point. And the most important one, dear, this is the top 20, the number one biggest scam in the world that people, even Ukrainians, there's millions of Ukrainians have the scam. Yes, you know what it is, right?
No.
When people buy unfinished building, like from a builder, nice office, the building is not finished, and you're like, well, there's lots of people on the construction site. People are building it. The work is going like crazy, and it's going to be done in like maybe a few months or a year, and it is done. The building is completed, and then you're like moving in, and it's like nothing is connected to it. You have no utilities, you have no water, you have no electricity. Okay, you have electricity, you have utility. Okay, you have a little bit of water, but you have no gas. You cannot power your stove. And the builder promised it, and this promised it, everybody promised it, and they're like, well, we gave the documents, well, they're not doing anything, they're not.
And then you can't do anything with it.
Yes.
You just bought it, and that's all.
And this is a huge problem. I mean, for Ukrainians, it's a huge problem, but for foreigners, they would not expect this at all, because in America, in Canada, in the UK, before the builder gets permission to build, to even dig the ground for the foundation, they have to have everything. They have to have sold the apartment to people, most of them. They have to have agreements with utilities, with electrical substation, with a power station, with the with the sewer line, with everything, right? It's all agreed with. Like I was talking to this guy that he told me that he knows people that have been living for 10 years in apartments and they haven't connected anything. Nobody cares. There's no responsibility. Nobody has any responsibility to anything, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you think you can avoid it? By not buying buildings under construction, or what? Is the building cannot be commissioned? Okay, they build it, but people can't even move in. Okay, that's the worst, right? When the gas is not connected is one half of the problem. The bigger half of the problem is when you can't move in at all. The builder says, I did all the documents. The state says, I did my job. And it's like they're working on two different planets, right? Like one is from Venus, the other one is from Mars. Mm-hmm. It's like men are from Venus, women are from Mars, and they're like talking to the air, not to each other, right? It's like that kind of environment that I think that we're seeing here.
I didn't buy any. I didn't bought anything. I don't know.
It's okay. I mean, no. These are the top 20 scams you have to be aware of. And the best case scenario, you lose some time, some money. But worst case scenario, you lose lots of time, and you lose like your health over it. You'll have many sleepless nights over it. You're gonna have issues with others. And and in many cases, there's no way out. Sometimes there's no way out of it, right? So I hope that Irichka and I were helpful. And you got a lot of useful information out of this. And if you like this video, like and subscribe. Leave your comment below what you think. If you have any ideas of how people can protect themselves, and consider donating. Maybe like making a one-time donation if you find this information useful. And we'll continue making these videos and helping you guys out with super useful information about Ukraine. Right? Super useful information.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.